Joseph Stalin was a Soviet politician and dictator who ruled the Soviet Union from the mid-1920s until his death in 1953. Born on December 18, 1878, in Gori, Georgia, Stalin rose through the ranks of the Communist Party to become the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union. Stalin's childhood was marked by poverty and instability. His father was an abusive drunkard who died when Stalin was young, and his mother was a washerwoman who struggled to make ends meet. Despite these hardships, Stalin was a gifted student and won a scholarship to attend a seminary in Tiflis, now Tbilisi, where he studied theology. Stalin's time in the seminary was brief, however, and he soon became involved in revolutionary politics. He joined the Marxist Social Democratic Labour Party (SDLP) in 1898 and quickly rose through the ranks of the party, becoming a key member of its Bolshevik faction. In the years leading up to the Russian Revolution of 1917, Stalin played a central role in the Bolsheviks' struggle for power. He served as editor of the party's newspaper, Pravda, and played a key role in organizing the October Revolution, which brought the Bolsheviks to power. In the years following the revolution, Stalin served in a number of key positions in the Soviet government, including as Commissar for Nationalities, which gave him significant influence over the country's ethnic minority groups. He also played a key role in the Red Army's victory in the Russian Civil War, which lasted from 1918 to 1922. In the mid-1920s, following the death of Vladimir Lenin, Stalin emerged as the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union. He consolidated his power through a series of brutal purges and show trials, in which he eliminated his political rivals and those he perceived as a threat to his rule. Stalin's rule was characterized by a ruthless pursuit of industrialization and collectivization, which aimed to transform the Soviet Union into an industrial superpower. He implemented a series of 5-year plans that focused on rapid industrialization and the expansion of heavy industry, often at the expense of agriculture and consumer goods production. The collectivization of agriculture was another key aspect of Stalin's economic policies. This involved the forcible consolidation of small farms into large, state-controlled collectives, which were supposed to be more efficient and productive. However, the implementation of collectivization was often brutal and resulted in widespread famine, as peasants who resisted were often killed or exiled. Stalin's rule was also marked by a cult of personality, in which he was portrayed as a heroic and infallible leader. His image was ubiquitous in Soviet propaganda, and he was referred to as the Father of Nations. During World War II, Stalin led the Soviet Union through a brutal and costly conflict against Nazi Germany. The war had a profound impact on the Soviet Union, and Stalin's leadership was critical in the Soviet Union's eventual victory. After the war, Stalin's rule became increasingly authoritarian, and his regime became known for its widespread human rights abuses and repression of dissent. Thousands of people were arrested, imprisoned, or executed for expressing dissenting opinions or being suspected of being disloyal to the regime. Stalin's rule ended with his death on March 5, 1953. His legacy remains highly controversial, with some viewing him as a ruthless dictator who was responsible for the deaths of millions of people, while others view him as a strong leader who led the Soviet Union through a difficult period and played a critical role in the defeat of Nazi Germany. In the years since his death, a number of revelations about Stalin's regime have come to light, including evidence of widespread human rights abuses, mass executions, and the forced labor of millions of people in Soviet gulags. These revelations have led to a re-evaluation of Stalin's legacy, and many have criticized him for his brutal methods and disregard for human life. Despite these criticisms, Stalin is still revered by some in Russia and other parts of the world. Many see him as a strong leader who transformed the Soviet Union into a world superpower and played a critical role in the defeat of Nazi Germany. Stalin's legacy is complex and multifaceted, and his rule had a profound impact on the Soviet Union and the world. Some of the key aspects of his legacy include industrialization and collectivization. Stalin's focus on industrialization and collectivization transformed the Soviet Union into an industrial powerhouse, but at a great human cost. Millions of people were displaced, exiled, or killed as a result of Stalin's policies. Cult of personality. Stalin's regime was characterized by a cult of personality, in which he was portrayed as a heroic and infallible leader. His image was ubiquitous in Soviet propaganda, and he was referred to as the Father of Nations. Repression and human rights abuses. Stalin's regime was marked by widespread human rights abuses, including mass executions, forced labor, and the repression of dissenting voices. Thousands of people were arrested, imprisoned, or executed for expressing dissenting opinions or being suspected of being disloyal to the regime. World War II. Stalin's leadership during World War II was critical in the Soviet Union's eventual victory over Nazi Germany. His leadership during this period is widely praised, and many see him as a heroic figure who played a key role in the defeat of fascism. Legacy in Russia and beyond. Despite the atrocities committed during his rule, Stalin is still revered by some in Russia and other parts of the world. His legacy continues to be a subject of debate and controversy, and his rule is still the subject of study and analysis by scholars and historians. In conclusion, Joseph Stalin was a complex and controversial figure who had a profound impact on the Soviet Union and the world. His legacy is a subject of ongoing debate and analysis, and his rule remains one of the most brutal and repressive in modern history.